Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a Dark Arm Dragon test hand video. So I'm really excited for this one because this deck is a really insane deck that is kind of like my own custom build. I haven't seen anybody else build Dark Arm Dragon like this at all, which I'm super excited about because I am DarkArmedDuelist. You have to build something with Dark Arm Dragon based. So I'm really excited for this one for you guys because this deck is a deck that can basically summon 3 Dark Arm Dragons in a single turn. It has the potential to summon all 3 Dark Arm Dragons in a single turn, which is insanely good and insanely fun to be able to do, just to get Dark Arm Dragon out on the field and just be able to turn your opponent's field into Swiss cheese with how many cards you're going to be able to attack on their side of the field with his effect and just destroy them, which is insanely good just to be able to. He's still good, even at being released like, I think it was like 12 years ago. It's been a long time since he's been out. He's just about to hit teenage years. So, without further ado, guys, let's get straight on this. But before we do, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell down there so you can become part of the notification squad. And definitely check out that Patreon because we got some really cool rewards for you guys, like getting a signed card in the mail, getting your name in the description of every single video, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month that you are a patron. So, let's get straight on into this, guys. So, we have some really cool stuff that we have in this deck that I'm going to show off. So, we have a couple of cards. I'm constantly tweaking this deck. I will mention you guys, this card is a new card. Destiny or Draw Hand is a new card that I put in this deck for the Destiny Fusion plays, and I threw it in here because it lets you draw cards as well. Because basically the whole point of this deck is to draw cards as quickly as possible to get into your Dark Arm Dragons and be able to summon all 3 of them as quickly as possible, essentially. So, let's do a quick what we normally do, and I'm going to draw 5 cards off the top of the deck and show you guys what a simple test hand would look like. So we're going to get a Plague Spreader Zombie because we do Synchro in this deck, Allure of Darkness, which lets us dig, Dark Arm Dragon, Living Fossil, and a copy of Allure of Darkness. So we have 2 Allures, which I'm going to draw off of one of them, which would be a copy of Dark World Dealings, and a second Dark Arm Dragon, so we banish one of our Plague Spreaders. Let's just say, because we have to, we do Dark World Dealings, which is Broken Bamboo Sword. We discard the Broken Bamboo Sword, and then we go into the other Allure to get a Popper Up and a copy of Sword of Deep-Seated, so we would have to banish one of our Dark Arm Dragons. We still have the Form Pile Popper Up that we could use for 3, so we're going to dig into the deck a little bit deeper, get a Call by the Haunted, or Call the Haunted, a Dark World Dealing, and a Zaphros. You could use the Dark World Dealing, draw again into another Form Pile Popper Up. You can't use a second Popper Up because you can only use Popper Up once per turn, but you could always normal summon out the copy of Zaphros or set it and then pass your turn, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it does help to be able to get those monsters out on the field because you're just using this to kind of summon out the Dark Arm Dragon. So let's go into our next test hand to kind of dig deeper into the deck, but I'm just kind of using that to show you the draw power of the deck, not to go into a big combo. I probably could have done a lot better there, but I'm just showing you guys a simple how deep you can dig into this deck, because this deck can dig real deep. So let's do one more. We're going to do 2 more of these. So we're going to get Popper Up. We're going to get Vion into Polymerization, Cursed Bamboo Sword, and a Draw Guy, which is still pretty good to be able to get into. And then if we're going second, we're going to draw a new Golden Bamboo Sword, which is just fine because now we have a Vion that we can send our copy of Shadow Mist to graveyard or Malicious. It depends on which one you want to go for. And get a search or a summon. You have a draw because you have the Cursed Bamboo Sword and the Bamboo Sword. And then you also have the effect of Draw Hand that you can send to the graveyard. And then you can special summon him during your next standby phase, which is pretty cool to be able to draw a card again. So it kind of gets yourself out of the graveyard. And you also have the Form Pile Popper Up to be able to draw more cards as well. So that's also some more plays. So let's get into our last simple test hand, and then we'll do a real test hand. So let's see what we can do. So for the last simple test hand, we draw Allure, Destiny Fusion, Dark World Dealings, Bamboo Sword, and Armageddonite. And then if we're going second, we're going to draw our copy of Call by the Grave. Really good hand. If you use the Dark World Dealings, which is usually what I would use, actually I would use the Destiny Fusion first, send our Draw Hand and our Malicious to the graveyard, banish one of the Maliciouses, special summon it to our side of the field, normal summon Armageddonite. You can already get a Beals out on the field, activate Dark World Dealings, draw another card, activate Allure, and then, or set everything and then activate Allure to dig deeper into the deck, which is another option. That was actually not a bad hand at all, because you want to draw a lot of draw power in this deck and not so much of your combo pieces, because your combo pieces are your draw power. If you draw Dark Armed in your first hand, it's actually not favorable to see Dark Armed in your first hand. because it makes it so you can't get more draw cards. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. You want to draw into it and not open it, which I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but it's you'll see what I mean when I do the actual test hand. So let's get into our first test hand and see what we draw. So we're going to draw into a Malicious, which is fine. We have plenty of ways like Dark World Dealings to discard it. Golden Bamboo Sword, or not Golden Bamboo Sword, Cursed Bamboo Sword, DDR, and Call by the Grave, because Call by the Grave helps out to be able to stop hand traps, as you guys know, in all my deck profiles. So, if we're going to do this, I'm going to go second, so I'm going to draw, and we're going to draw into a Plague Spreader, which is totally fine. We're going to activate Dark World Dealings, discard our copy of Malicious, and then draw another card, which is going to be Living Fossil. That is totally fine, because we have plenty of plays to go from here. So then we're going to banish the Malicious from the graveyard, and we're going to special summon a Malicious from the deck, which thank goodness we didn't draw our second copy of Malicious, because that would have really sucked. As you guys know from playing Heroes, that is not a good time when you draw your one-of that you're trying to get off the field. Now at this point, you could do something simple and normal summon your Plague Spreader, and then from normal summoning Plague Spreader, you could activate the Bamboo Sword and target the Plague Spreader, and then synchro these two together for a Beals if you want to make a little bit of a defensive play, or you could link summon into another monster as well. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is you can't go for a Zold. So I would probably go for the Beals and put it in defense position if I'm going first, I probably put the Beals in attack position and swing with the Beals. And then also the Bamboo Sword is going to get us a Golden Bamboo Sword, which is going to help us out quite a lot, to be honest. Then we have more plays that we could go into from here. If you want to go a little bit further, you could even put a card on top of the deck and special summon the Plague Spreader and synchro or link play. You could go into a link play at this point by activating the copy of DDR and the Living Fossil to bring back your Plague Spreader and your banished Malicious as well, which is options for you guys. But then you'd end up with just having a Plague Spreader Malicious on the field, which you could link summon together and summon a copy of Nightmare Phoenix or a copy of something else that you might want to go into. So that is options for you guys. I think this is the safe play, though, so we're going to go with that play. If we go into the next turn, we're going to draw into a Destiny Fusion, which is going to be kind of nice because we still have the draw hand index, so we're going to activate that Destiny Fusion, which I go into with these kind of test hands with this deck. I'm going to go into turn 3 and show you guys what the deck can potentially do. So we're going to send both of those to the graveyard, which is going to be really helpful to summon our Destiny Hero Dangerous. So after we summon the Destiny Hero Dangerous, we do have 3 dark monsters in graveyard, so you got to keep count of how many dark monsters you have in the grave. It's going to search our copy of our Evil Hero Militia, or Evil Hero Dusted Gold, which is then going to search us a copy of our Dark Calling. So you can discard that copy of Evil Hero Dusted Gold and then get Dark Calling, use Dark Calling to fusion summon our Malicious Bane as well, which is going to be another card that you're going to summon in this deck, which is still pretty cool to be able to do. You could link summon at this point again if you want to link summon. I will mention that again, that you could activate your DDR or your Living Fossil, and you could even potentially make a really powerful monster. Because I'm going to go with this route and say, let's see something really quick. Hold up. Yeah, that just takes 2 warrior monsters. Let's just go for this route and say that we have that Shadow Mist in graveyard and go Living Fossil, and then summon back our copy of our Shadow Mist. So Shadow Mist and the copy of Dangerous are going to be sent to the graveyard, and then once you do send that Shadow Mist to the graveyard, keep in mind you can only special summon Dark Hero monsters for the rest of the turn. We're going to summon our copy of our Cross Crusader. Cross Crusader's effect is going to trigger, then special summoning our Draw Hand to our side of the field. Draw Hand's effect is going to trigger, letting us draw a card and then discard a card. So we did get a copy of Dark Armed Dragon. Let's say we didn't use that copy of Call by the Grave. We're going to send that to the graveyard. That's totally fine. You can then tribute off your draw hand and then search a hero monster from your deck to your hand. So we're going to do that. Send our copy of Draw Hand to the graveyard and search from our deck a copy of a hero monster, which I am going to say we're going to search our copy of Vision Hero Vion, which we don't have. Something to keep in mind, we don't have another monster to send to the graveyard with our Vion, but that's totally fine. You're just thinning the deck a little bit to get monsters out of the deck. But keep in mind, because we did resolve that Destiny Fusion, you can't special summon monsters except for Dark Heroes this turn. But that's totally fine because we have plenty of plays to go off with this deck. But we did already get a Beals and a copy of our Malicious Bane on the field. It's not quite Dark-Armed Dragon, but we do have 4 Darks in the graveyard and the potential to get 2 of them out because we have the Draw Hand and the Plague Spreader that we can get out of the deck, which is still plays to go off. So that's our first test hand. You can get into a field like this without using Dark-Armed Dragon, and then using Dark-Armed Dragon as a follow-up play to be able to special summon. So let's get into our next test hand. So that's just a little bit of an example of a test hand where you don't draw a bunch of draw cards like you normally would in this deck, and you can just get off with a bunch of plays with other monsters in turn 1 and turn 3, which you have follow-up plays, which is what I was trying to show you guys. So let's make sure that we didn't put any of our monsters from our extra deck in our deck, because I tend to do that with this deck for some reason, which we didn't. And we're going to shuffle this back up. Sometimes when you're playing this deck, I highly recommend that you pile shuffle this deck. I'm not going to for video's sake, but this deck is a deck that you're going to use a lot of combo pieces, and you don't want your Maliciouses to hug one another if you don't pile shuffle, and you don't want your copies of like your Vions and stuff like that to hug one another, because you'll brick if you draw both of them in the same hand. This deck does brick sometimes, but it's just one of those decks that you're just trying to summon Dark-Armed Dragon. It's nostalgia, man. You want to summon that Dark-Armed Dragon. So let's go into our next hand. So for our next hand, after we get that a good little shuffle-a-roo, we are going to draw. So we're going to draw into a Destiny Fusion, which is totally fine. A Dusted Gold, Called by the Grave, our Dark World Dealing, and please don't be Dark Calling, our Armageddon Knight. Let's go first this time and see what we can do. So our first turn, we are going to, I personally would probably Dark World, no I wouldn't. I would probably use my Destiny Fusion going first. My Destiny Fusion is always going to give me the plays that I need it to. So I'm going to send my copy of Shadow Mist to the graveyard because it's going to get me a search. And I'm going to send a copy of my Malicious to the graveyard because it's going to get me a banish and a summon, which I'm then going to banish the copy of Malicious, and I'm going to summon the other Malicious. Now keep in mind, I'm just sitting this to the side so I don't have to go back in twice. We're going to keep this here. We're going to go for our play. So, first off, you're going to summon Dangerous. We're just trying to get those materials on the field so the next turn we can go into a Zold, if we can't go into a Zold this turn. So I'm going to banish the copy of Malicious that's in the graveyard, and I'm going to summon this copy of Malicious onto the field. At this point, you could discard your Dusted Gold and add from deck to hand our copy of the... Where is it? Our copy of Dark Calling. There it is. Okay. So now that we grab that Dark Calling, we have a follow-up play. We can link summon here, or we can use our Dark World Dealing, or you can use Armageddon Knight. Normal summon that Armageddon Knight if you want to. I probably would keep the Armageddon Knight in my hand for the moment until I go into at least my Malicious Bane, because this deck is not only Dark-Armed Dragon Turbo, but it's also Malicious Bane Turbo, which is super fun to be able to do. So, you also have that Call by the Grave, which is important to note so you can stop your opponent. So we're going to go ahead and discard that because they're probably going to try and hit at least one of these cards that we're going for. And we're going to link summon these two together to immediately go for our Cross Crusader. Cross Crusader is now on the field, and we're going to use his effect to bring back our Destiny Hero Malicious, which then you contribute to search a copy of a hero monster from your deck to your hand, which I would normally search in this deck a copy of Draw Hand, because Draw Hand is going to give us some really good plays. I like that ability to just search that card. So, now that we have... Actually, yeah, I probably would do that. Yeah. Okay. So now you can Allure, and once you... Or not Allure, but you can Dark World Dealing, draw one. There's our Dark-Armed Dragon. There's your first Dark-Armed Dragon. He reveals itself. See, when I play this deck, when I draw cards, I just am like, hey, there he is. Which is why I love this deck. So, we got our Dark-Armed Dragon for the next turn. And we're going to have to discard a card. So we're going to discard that Draw Hand because the Draw Hand is going to get in the graveyard and give us plays. Oh no, we have 5 Darks in the graveyard. What are we going to do? Well, there's a simple solution for that. Dark Calling. Dark Calling lets us banish 2 of our hero monsters, which is a Dusted Gold, and our copy of Dangerous. It could be Dangerous, it could be Malicious, it could be any hero that you wanted it to be. And we're going to fusion summon into our copy of the Malicious Bane. Malicious Bane is now on the field, and we have some follow-up plays that we're going to be able to go into, because now we have 3 darks in the graveyard, which you're going to be wanting to count the entire time. Don't normal summon the Armageddonite. Pass your turn, blow board if you can. If you need to, if you're going second, you have the Malicious Bane, always blow board, but if you're not, we're going to pass. Let's just say that they don't destroy the Cross Crusader, and we're going to draw. So we're going to draw into our turn, and that's totally fine. We now have we are out of the, actually, it doesn't even matter. Let's just say they do destroy the Cross Crusader. We're going to special summon because this card was sent to the graveyard. During the next standby phase, after this card was sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your grave, but banish it when it leaves the field. We're going to special summon our draw hand. Draw hand's effect is when it's special summoned by the effect of a hero monster, you can make each player draw a card and then discard a card. So we're going to draw and discard, which is fine. That's great, actually, because now we get to add Cursed Bamboo Sword from our deck to our hand because this card was sent to the graveyard. Whenever it's sent to the grave, you get to search a bamboo card. Now that we've done that play, we have 3 darks in the graveyard, and we can begin to start summoning our Dark Armed Dragons. So we're just going to go, boop, there's our first one. Okay, so now we're going to equip the Cursed Bamboo Sword to our draw hand because it's going to get sent to the graveyard at some point. And then we're going to normal summon our copy of the Armageddonite. Armageddonite is a really pivotal card in here because it's going to let you also count the amount of equip spells that we have in the deck, which is really pivotal. So we're going to have the Cursed Bamboo Sword, which is 1. We have Broken Bamboo Sword in here, which is 2. I knew the Broken Bamboo Sword in there. I didn't even know it was going to be the next card I saw. DDR, and you have Living Fossil, and I believe I have Sword of Dark seated too. I'm going to leave the Sword of Dark seated in the deck, I believe, because it's going to put itself back on top of the deck. Which is something that you want to count while you're looking at your deck. I probably would put I'll put the Sword of Dark seated back in the deck. That's fine. Yeah, because I kind of want to keep DDR or Living Fossil, one of the two. Where's that copy? I'm going to put that at the bottom. So Armageddonite is going to trigger, and it's going to send our copy of Plague Spreader to the graveyard, which is totally fine. I'll just leave these on the bottom of the deck because I'm about to go into Isolde. Now, at this point, you could link these two together because you're trying to thin that deck just that much more. And we're going to link these two together, which this draw hand actually banishes itself. And we're going to summon our copy of Isolde. Isolde is then going to trigger, sending 4 equip spells to the graveyard, which is going to be these 4. And then the Sword of Dark seated will actually put itself back on top of the deck. You then get to special summon a card from your deck, which could be any warrior monster that's a level 4. Which at this point, I would probably summon my Vion. Vion is then going to trigger, sending another copy of Vion to the graveyard, because it says you can only use the effective Visionary of Vion once per turn, and then you can normal summon this card, you can send a hero monster to the graveyard. It doesn't say you can't send Vion, so we send Vion. You could also count, before we go any deeper, count the amount of heroes, or count the amount of dark monsters you have in the graveyard. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How can I get these out of the graveyard? Well, if I don't send the Vion, it doesn't matter. Let's not send the Vion. Because then if we draw into a Dark Armed Dragon, it's not that big of a deal. So, we have that Sword of Dark seated right on top of the deck. I'm going to choose to not activate the effect. Actually, yes I am. I'm going to activate the effect of Vion. Send Vion to the graveyard, trigger the Vion's effect, banish the Vion from the graveyard, and then search from our deck the copy of Polymerization that we play. Because we play a single copy of Polymerization. We're going to shuffle that deck right up, because we did touch the deck. So you do get that copy of Sword of Dark seated shuffle back into the deck. And also, your Isolde would get you a search too, which I totally forgot about, which is get you Dark Grepher. Because we're just trying to thin the deck again. So now I know the majority of my deck is going to be cards that are going to draw me cards. So I'm going to activate Golden Bamboo Sword and start digging. So we're going to draw 2. We got another Dark Armed. How many darks do we have in the graveyard now? I think we have 4. We have Armageddonite, Plague Spreader, Cross Crusader, and a Malicious, and a Shadow Mist. So we have 5 dark monsters in the graveyard. That's totally fine. We have Dark Armed on the field. We can banish. That's fine. We're going to do it again. We're going to allure. Dig deeper. Okay? Keep digging. Push past your limits, guys. If you haven't watched Black Clover, you should. So we're going to allure, banish, and then we're going to have that other Dark Arm. So at this point, I would pop a card on my opponent's side of the field, which would be anything that you want to banish. Maybe 2, maybe banish 2, and then summon my second Dark Armed. We have 2 Dark Arms on the field now, okay? So I'm going to set these 2 cards, and I'm going to blind allure. Bad idea, but good idea. Draw 2, we didn't get anything. That's fine. We still have our 2 cards in our hand, which is totally fine, or 2 cards that are face down. Allure did hit our cards, which is totally fine. See, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes that last Dark Armed is near the bottom of the deck, and you won't get it, which sucks, but you just don't get it. But you do get 2, and then we have a polymerization that we can follow up if you want to go into a Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, because we do have Starving Venom Fusion Dragon in the... Or no, we don't have Starving Venom. You can just get the polymerization out of your deck just to get it out of the deck. So we did summon 2 Dark Arms, and then you're able to pop your opponent's back row with these cards that are in your hand, which is still pretty good, or in your graveyard. So we have 2 pops, and we have some plays. So let's do one last quick test hand, and I'll show you guys one last quick one, and then we'll be good. So for the last test hand, let me grab these cards out of the deck. As you can see, we burned through a lot of cards. A lot of cards in this deck. So we're going to do a quick one, and I'm going to do... Let's see. Put these back. And then we're going to start drawing. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go second, so 6. Okay, so we got plenty of plays here. We're going to dealings, draw, discard, effect, special summon the Malicious from deck, which is going to be our big play. And then we're going to activate the Destiny Fusion, which is totally fine, just to get them out of the deck. Send Shadow Mist, and send Draw Hand, because you have that extra Destiny hero in the deck. And then the Shadow Mist is going to search us a card out of the deck, which is going to be our copy of a Dusted Gold, which, something to keep in mind, Dusted Gold is a light monster, for some reason. Discard the Dusted Gold to add Dark... We already have Dark Calling, excuse me. I tried to search a card I didn't need. Haha. Okay. So sometimes you will draw hands like this and they will break a little bit, and you'll just have to pass. And your opponent's going to destroy that, and then we're going to draw in our next turn. And we have Dark Armed. Okay. So at this point we have 3 darks. See? It was a Destiny draw, guys. You saw it here first. Dark Armed Dragon. There you go. Pop their field and go for it. Just banish 3. You can choose to not activate the draw hand effect or anything. Banish 3 and pop their field, and then you've got it. I mean, at that point. So I think I'm going to call it there, guys. We're just going to draw into another Dark Arm casually. I mean, I just did that on purpose. I didn't even stack the deck. You guys saw me shuffle the deck. I can't believe I just top decked a Dark Armed, which is kind of cool. But that's it, guys. If you didn't banish anything and you could draw another card, which we had ways we could, you could get into another Dark Armed Dragon. But that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy that. It's a super fun deck to play around with. It's really interesting to just, you know, play around with this Dark Armed Dragon deck and just be able to summon Dark Armed as quickly as possible on your opponent's turn. It's just, and it's contagious. Like, I just don't want to stop playing this deck because it's so much fun. So anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think of this video down in the comments down below. And tell me how you enjoy playing your Dark Armed Dragon, because there's a lot of different deck profiles on my channel that we play Dark Armed Dragon in. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.